Hello and welcome to another episode of Startup Hustle Middle East. So today we're super excited because we've got Dr. Corrie Block with us. So Dr. Corrie is a business strategist and an executive coach. He's been featured on CEO Magazine, Forbes, Entrepreneur, Mead, and many, many others. He's been an international speaker, has set up 7 businesses.
Yes.
Consults on several startups. So we think he's just like the perfect candidate for an interview.
We'll see.
So it should be an exciting episode. So welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
So why don't we start with your background and the businesses you set up across Europe and MENA?
7 businesses.
Yes. You want to know all 7, right? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, maybe we should do it a little quickly though.
Yeah, sure. Okay. So I was 23 when I started my first organization was in third-party education.
Okay.
After that, we had a need for sound and lighting equipment in the programming that we were doing with education. So I bought a bunch of sound and lighting equipment, and that gave us an opportunity to rent it out to other companies and organizations that needed it. So we started building money in that way, and then I decided, we're becoming big, we're becoming a brand. Let's start a clothing company. So I started this. Like I was a little bit full of myself at that time. So like anybody who was around me was like, oh yeah, Corrie was like he was a legend in his own mind.
Yeah.
So that was when the momentum ran away with me, and I ended up I took a bunch of money from my father-in-law and started this clothing company and failed spectacularly. It was horrible. I was absolutely the worst thing. I think I was in it for like 6 months, got maybe 2 orders, and couldn't work out the sourcing or the supply or the market right. Nothing went right. So I folded. Well, one of the good things that I learned was when you know it's not going to go, just close up. Like I don't have a commitment bias at all. Right? When it's done, shutter, move on. So that was very helpful. I learned that there. Is just to end quickly. I took whatever I could scrape in capital from my clothing company and ended up starting a media company. So we started doing live event video support and video editing and small commercials and things like that. So we started a media company.
This is all where?
That was all Estonia.
Estonia.
Yeah, I moved over to Estonia with my wife when I was 23. My ex-wife. I'm gonna get a new wife now.
Okay, congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I'm engaged.
Congrats.
Very happy about that.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, my 2 kids were both born in Estonia. We lived there for 8 years.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and that was in 98 when we moved over there. So it was the really, really innovative time. When we moved over there were no shopping centers. There was no supermarket. The first supermarket was opened while we were there.
Oh wow.
No
Yeah,
way.
so it was like really great. It was a really
So where
fun,
would people go to buy stuff?
Oh, like little shops.
Okay.
What we would call bakalas in Yemen.
Yeah.
They had them there.
Like grocery stores.
Yeah, little grocery
Yeah.
stores, right?
Okay,
Yeah, little milk bars, right? Would be all over the place. So we
Okay.
would shop from there, the little bread stores and stuff. But yeah, so started 4 companies in Eastern Europe. One of them died in its infancy. And we buried it, and it was very sad. It was mostly sad for me. Like I was probably truly the only person loyal to that brand.
Okay.
Because I just thought it was really cool.
You and
What
the
was
2
it?
customers that you
Me
got?
and the 2 customers. It was called Level. Levels. Yeah.
That's the clothing company.
Yeah. The clothing company was called Level.
Okay.
Yeah. It was, and the logo was really cool. And I just thought, I was like,
you thought you were successful with 2 businesses.
Yeah,
so
I was
you would
25, right?
Yeah.
Like I was full of myself, and I thought that I couldn't be touched, and clearly the market touched me. Yeah.
And what happened after the 4?
After that, wanted to move into something else. Decided to relocate after 9/11. Actually, I wanted to move into the Middle East to see if I could be more of a positive influence on what was going on in the world.
Okay.
Yeah, so sold everything again. Because we had sold everything we had in Canada to move to Eastern Europe to start these organizations, and we sold everything again, left with whatever we could carry, went to Canada for a year, and then retooled and moved out to Yemen. So we were in Yemen for 5 years.
Wow.
And there I did, I did Arabic studies, first of all, because I wanted to learn Arabic. That's the reason why I actually went. I didn't go to Yemen for business. Nobody goes to Yemen for business, right? Like it's a bit crazy. But I had met some guy in London who was doing consulting for the Ministry of Electricity in Yemen. And he said, you have to come. The economy is great and the people are so welcoming. There's so many opportunities. And I said, where is that? And so he like
Place
literally
it on the map. for me.
literally pulls out a map and he goes, okay, it's right here, next to the, and I was like, oh, okay, I didn't know there was anything there. I thought it was just all Saudi. I was super ignorant of the Middle East and its geography at that time. So
yeah, actually, I have to tell you this. So I studied in Canada, and both me and my sister. And my sister was in Montreal, and she goes to her landlord, and her landlord's like, "Where are you from?" And she's like, "Dubai." Blank face. United Arab Emirates, blank face.
Yeah.
The Middle East, blank face.
Yeah.
And then the landlord says, "So not in Canada?" And she's like, "I don't even know where to begin."
Yeah.
So I had to educate a lot of people that in Dubai people did not ride camels, and we weren't bathing in oil and stuff.
Yeah.
But anyway,
I think that's changed a little bit now.
A
I
bit.
digress.
Yeah.
It's changed quite a bit now. So
Now, Yemen was so much fun.
Yeah.
Like, spent 2 years learning Arabic, and then I worked with the Al Said Anam group of companies. They have like 45,000 employees around the world. They're a
Wow.
massive company. I worked with Dome Construction and Trading, and they do large construction projects around the GCC.
Okay.
And I worked with Zeitgeist Holdings to do feasibility research on power and water projects. So it was really fun. Like, I got to do a lot of really great things. So what I had intended would just be like 2 years of learning Arabic and living in the desert ended up being 5 years.
Okay.
So, and then that
Nice.
was fine. Then, of course, the Civil War started. So we relocated and we moved to Dubai.
Okay.
So-
And where did you start from in Dubai?
In Dubai, I started entrepreneurship for the first time, doing a startup on behalf of someone else.
Okay.
So this was,
Okay.
a good friend of mine from Yemen had a conglomerate of investors. They pooled some money together and they said, hey, Corrie, what do we do with this?
Okay.
So they're like, you've started companies. How do we start a company? So I said, okay, great. Let's start a company. So I started actually from Yemen. This was before the move to Dubai. I said, let's register in Dubai. We'll do general trading. We'll start with, fast moving consumer goods, which is where we have which is our wheelhouse for these guys and their networks. So we started in that. We did a lot of different kinds of things like fish food and canned goods and pulses and spices and all kinds of, and great brands. Really, really fun. It was a really fun project, but that was also my landing place when I came to Dubai. So after, during the Civil War, when things were kind of falling apart in Yemen, my friend Waleed said, hey, listen, why don't you just move your family to Dubai? You can take a visa with the company that you just set up for us. I said, oh, that's great. So it became a really soft landing. So I just started to build the company, and I was with them for about a year and a half here until the company had enough momentum of its own. We had set up processes and procedures, and it had its own life. And then I felt like I could walk away from it, which I did.
So
Okay.
what, did you appoint a you in the company as well?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So somebody replaced me. Kamal.
Okay.
Yeah, a guy named Kamal. It was brilliant guy.
Okay.
Absolutely lovely gentleman.
Okay.
So he
Nice.
replaced me in the company, and then I moved on, and I started another consultancy with an Emirati partner.
Okay.
And that consultancy failed spectacularly as well.
Okay, so that's your second failure. Okay. But
Yes.
I still think that 5 out of 7, it's pretty good.
Yes.
Good
So
odds,
now,
Yeah.
now I have another consultancy, which is Paragon, and I have an internal position with Xische Co.
Okay.
And I'm a postgraduate professor of strategic management at Monarch School of Business in Switzerland. So those are my 3 formal roles now.
Okay.
But my company, Paragon, my consultancy company, is a solopreneurship.
Okay.
So it is intentionally only me.
Oh,
Okay.
really?
Yes, I have not and will not take an employee.
As lean as it can get.
Yeah.
But for me, that's really fun. And it's also really, it's very high risk, very high reward.
Yeah.
Right. But it's extremely nimble. So I have the resilience after 20 years of, living. I don't live month to month, but I live quarter to quarter like most entrepreneurs. Right. So 20 years of living quarter to quarter, you kind of build up that resiliency to figure that, you know what, I don't know exactly what's around the corner, but I'm pretty sure it'll be fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
So working on my own has given me the flexibility of choosing my clients, choosing my projects, picking the people that I spend my days with, which is so fun.
Yeah.
Because now I only do what I love.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Awesome.
So in between all this, you got time to do 2 masters and then 2 PhDs. And
yeah, but don't be impressed. That's my hobby. Don't
don't be impressed.
No,
I just
seriously.
like to learn.
Yes, it's
just for fun,
That's actually true. So I went to college for a year.
Okay.
I did international studies in Canada. Dropped out after a year because it just wasn't my thing. Started in business. I started as the inventory manager for a window production company. I was there for 3 years. Then moved to Estonia to start our companies there.
Right.
Anyway, yeah, so I decided I would just never go back. And then my friends who were older than me and wiser than me, the Gary V's of my life, would come up to me in Estonia and say, listen, you really need to go back to school. And I said, why? We're doing just fine. I'm successful. I've got these organizations and doing great. And they said, no, listen, you need to be able to steward this information so other people can learn from it. And you need a language for that. And a master's in business or something is going to give you the language that you need to steward the successes that you've had. Okay. So I was like, okay. So I pursued a master's in global leadership from Fuller School of Intercultural Studies in Pasadena, in California.
Okay.
And then after that, while in Yemen, I pursued a PhD in Arab and Islamic Studies.
Okay.
Because I was living in Yemen, right? Living in Yemen, I was working just fine. Everything's going fine. But all of my friends, all of them, they're all very hardcore, staunch Muslims and great, wonderful, respectable guys. But I'm the only white guy in the room. I'm probably the only white guy that's ever been in the room. And whenever anything religious comes up, everybody looks at me and says, Corrie, what do you think?
Okay.
Right?
Yeah, because you're the outsider.
Exactly. And I didn't know what I thought.
Yeah.
So I cured my ignorance with a PhD, as you do when that's your hobby, right?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So I don't watch...
We've come across so many people who
I don't watch
would take
hockey.
that route.
I don't watch hockey. I don't watch football. I don't collect classic cars.
Do you play video games?
No, I don't. I don't play video games.
Stop playing video games. Go get a PhD.
My son plays video games.
Okay.
He's 18 now. I have an 18-year-old child.
Wow.
And he's off on his own playing video games now.
Okay.
Actually, he's in landscaping. He's doing really well.
Okay,
pushing
cool.
a lawnmower around, and he's very, very happy.
Okay, cool. Very
Anyway,
cool.
so
you just decided to...
So I finished my first doctorate at the University of Exeter in the UK. And then I pursued a master's in business, and then I finished my second doctorate in business administration at Monarch, where I'm a professor now.
Okay.
Damn,
and when people introduce you, do you correct them and be like, it's actually Dr. Corrie?
Well, actually, in German, you have to say both doctors, so it's Professor
Really?
Dr. Corrie.
Oh my God. So is that what you say to people?
No.
Please call me Professor Dr. Doctor.
No. Most of the time I go by hey or you or dude or guy or jerk.
That guy.
Sometimes.
That guy. Yeah.
Depending on who's calling me out. Yeah.
Cool. Okay.
So you consult businesses on how to
Set
improve
them up.
themselves. And
Yes,
strategy.
Set it
exactly.
up.
So entrepreneurship and entrepreneurship and corporate governance. So it's not just a matter of helping one company start one entity. I've also helped larger companies start single or multiple entities or restructure their entities. So I did that for Blue Rhine Group of companies, for Daniel Wellington, to just design a new governance structure, a new legal structure for them to make sure that they're getting the best out of what's available legally in the GCC.
Okay. So, but you also consult solopreneurs, entrepreneurs who have a tech idea that need help with setting up the business.
Yeah, so most of the calls that I get from entrepreneurs are from guys that have really amazing ideas and no business acumen at all.
Okay.
Right?
So you're almost like their part of their board of advisors or something. Okay.
Yeah, I end up being really cost effective because I'm kind of a one-man band administrative show.
Okay.
So I can set up the operations processes and HR and finance and manufacturing if necessary, outsourcing if necessary.
Okay.
So that's and it's very easy for me.
Okay.
It's fun because I've done it before, right?
Yeah.
Sure.
So it's a wheelhouse.
Okay.
But I tend to be able to fill in the blanks for whatever people are missing when they want to get their really good idea into an actual business model.
So building operations basically.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I think a lot of entrepreneurs lack in operations.
Yeah.
And that's where a lot of businesses tend to suffer because people are excited about the idea, but when it comes to execution, they struggle.
Yeah.
Well, passion isn't enough these days, right?
Yeah.
It really isn't. Passion is a major main ingredient, but it's not enough to get your company off the ground.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think operational excellence is the reason that a lot of these startups are successful.
Yeah.
If they don't have it, then your idea might be amazing, but you're going to fail.
Or they're lucky enough to get an angel investor to throw enough money at them that they can cover their weaknesses.
Yeah.
Which also happens.
True.
Yeah.
So when you get asked to do these jobs, and then when entrepreneurs call you in to help them out, what do you look at?
But what is your starting point?
What's your starting point? Like, what are the things that you look
Absolutely.
at first?
Number one is the USP. What is your unique selling position?
Okay.
What do you have that nobody else has? Why should I be passionate about what you're doing? Because I'm not donating my time. Obviously, I'm getting paid, right?
Yeah.
But I've earned the right in my career to work with only people that I like and doing only projects that I enjoy. So I actually want to enjoy whatever product or service it is that I'm developing, because I'm putting half of my life that day into this project. Why would I and these moments, whatever moments I put into your project, I'm never going to get them back.
Yeah.
Sure.
Right? So why would I be passionate about it? Just because somebody else is passionate about it doesn't mean I am too. So I'm looking for that. I'm looking for the USP, and I'm looking for their passion, and I'm looking for my passion.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to challenge the USP thing, because if you look at the businesses that have got funding, Kareem,
Yeah.
Middle East Uber, Souk, Middle East Amazon, Talabat, Middle East Deliveroo or whatever. Actually, no, Deliveroo came later. But
Deliveroo was in the UK before it came here. And Talabat was modeled. Yeah.
Talabat was modeled after Food on Click, I think.
Food on Click, yeah.
So when you talk about USP, these are businesses that either already existed here and there's a local, setup like Kareem, because Uber already existed here before, or they are copycat businesses.
Right.
I don't want to call them copycat because they did adapt to the market.
But they do have USPs. They like Kareem came in, and when Uber was doing credit cards, they were doing cash, and they were localized, and they had Arabic content, and they had
but when
they changed their business strategy.
Yeah, but when we say USP, you also think that it's like a disruptive idea that hasn't been
can be
done.
a small thing.
Actually, the USP for Souk and for Kareem was the market.
Yeah.
They had a hold on the market that their major competitors couldn't compete with, so they got absorbed.
Yeah.
And that's how major companies who want to protect their monopolies, that's how they grow. They grow by absorbing people who have a handle on markets that they haven't got a handle on yet. So they can either go in and compete directly, which is what Uber did. Or,
Initially,
Uber went in and competed directly with Kareem, realized they were never actually going to get that market share that
But
Kareem
Uber was
had
first
established.
to market.
Yes, but Kareem was faster.
Yeah.
Kareem was faster, and I think the other reason was that because Uber was looking to IPO.
Yeah.
And Uber was Kareem is not only in Dubai. They own Pakistan. They own a lot of parts of the Middle East.
That's
where
right.
Uber wasn't even participating. So they had their USP was definitely
and Saudi
market penetration.
Yeah, absolutely. And so they did a really good job. They established themselves in a market that the big players weren't in yet, and the big players had to make a decision: compete or absorb. And Amazon absorbed, and Uber competed.
And then absorbed.
Yeah. Exactly. So those are, again, just two different strategies for dealing with the same challenge. How do you manage a competitor when you're at market saturation?
Yeah. Okay, so USP, their passion and your passion is what defines.
Souk also had other USPs, like they had their own
logistics
arm, and they had their own payment gateway. Payford is owned by Souk. Amazon absorbed all that.
That's right.
So it's not just they didn't want the brand. Souk, obviously they dismantled that.
Yeah.
But they had the logistics. They had
true.
They had they converted the market penetration.
And Souk went through a lot of teething issues before it got to a stage that Amazon would buy it and they would get another offer from
Yeah.
other players as well.
I mean, so it's partially the technology that Zook had, which was their payment processing.
Yeah.
It's partially their manpower and logistics network. So
Okay,
those
fine,
are all
fine.
USPs.
Fair enough. Fair enough. So by USPs, we don't mean like it's a disruptive company. Nothing
No,
like it
almost nothing is disruptive.
anymore. Right?
Yeah, like really the ability to be disruptive. I mean, it's very rare. It's exceedingly rare. And yet there's a lot of companies that start up, they build, they grow, they grab their market, they have their USP, and then they either sell out or they get absorbed or they close down. They have their life cycles, they live and die.
Yeah.
And some of them grow and just become stable.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah.
So we have great long-term stable family companies in the UAE that haven't really grown much in the last 10, 15 years. And they're very happy with that.
Yeah.
It's fine. They don't need more.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So can you share a case study of a business that you helped set up, and can you talk about that or no?
I prefer not to talk about my
Okay.
clients.
No,
Okay.
okay.
Okay,
Let's
we
skip that.
can-
I can-
So he
yeah, I
just
can
went
talk
through
about
his
them.
first point, which is USPs. What's
I
the
can
second
talk
point?
about them anonymously. So, for example, one tech company that came from Central Europe came to establish themselves here. They didn't know how to establish themselves here, and they didn't know how to actually design the company.
Okay.
It wasn't the technology that they had. The technology was great. They had everything that they needed, but they couldn't. They didn't know how to price it for the market. They didn't know how to establish the market, and they didn't know how to establish operations. So, how do you run an office? How many people do we need in finance? How do we do our books? You know, how do you run HR? Well, how many visas do we need? Those kinds of things. Like they just didn't have any of that competency. So I filled in the gaps for them on that. I became the first interim CEO for the company just for 6 months.
Okay.
Just enough to design the company, get it going, and then
Hand it over.
and then hand it over and walk away.
Okay.
So I've done that a few times. And it was great. The company's still here. They're doing well. And I won't tell you who they are because
Okay.
that's history. But now I'm in that process again. One of my executive coaching clients, she's an amazing executive. I've been working with her for a few months. She realized that in her position, she was just unhappy. And that what she really wanted, her real actual passion in life, wasn't being managed, she wasn't able to live that out in the role that she was in, and she actually wanted to start her own company.
Okay.
And so me being her executive coach, I said, well, I'll just help you do that.
Okay.
And she
Yeah.
said, okay, great. So
Regardless of whatever the company is.
yeah,
That's
it's exactly
irrelevant.
right. So we've been in that process now. So she's at the place now where she has a full business plan, and she is accrediting herself to carry out the business plan, because there are some very specific accreditations that are required in order to carry that out. So she's getting the accreditations required by the middle of September, end of September. She'll be accredited and she'll have everything that she needs educationally in order to manage
Kick
that.
off.
Yeah, in order to kick off. And so then she's looking at VCs now. Like,
Okay.
You know, so I got her to the place where she was in this amazing position in an incredible company, where she was talking through her lack of satisfaction in her
Right.
job, helped her to identify where she would be more satisfied, and helped her to realize that company where she would be more satisfied doesn't yet exist, and therefore she would have to create it. And now she's, you know, she was very she was nervous in the beginning. She's like, oh, can I do this? Can I do this? Now she's kind of like behind it. She's like, yes, absolutely. This is going to be fun.
Awesome.
So
Cool.
yeah, so
Great.
that's also a really fun process, is watching people find their passion
Yeah.
and then helping them to find the confidence to give it a shot. Because
Cool.
it's tough. Giving it a shot is tough.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
for
tough,
sure. So, as part of being an executive coach to her
Yeah.
and guiding her through this, I mean, this is something that you do because you're a speaker.
Yes.
right?
Yes. Yeah. So I do a lot of public speaking.
Okay.
I don't like that people call it motivational speaking, because I don't like motivation at all. I don't like the idea of motivation, and I also don't think performance management exists. So we
Okay.
can talk about that later too if you want. But the first thing that really irritates me is motivation. I think motivation is bullshit. What really matters in entrepreneurship, especially in every job that I've ever seen, is not motivation. It's discipline.
Okay.
Motivation gets you to the starting gate, but discipline gets you to the finish line. Because at some point in that job, that project, that company that you're starting, whatever it is that you're doing, it is not going to be fun.
Yeah.
And all of the reasons you have for doing it aren't going to matter.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
survival is probably not going to matter at some point. You're just going to want to like close up and die.
Yeah.
I remember those days. In the beginnings, I remember it vividly. It is like starting a new company is like having a child.
Yeah.
It is 2 years of sleepless nights and just vomit.
We're there.
It's vomit and piss, and no one says thank you, and there's screaming, and it's mostly yours, and you're always trying to save it from killing itself. Like that's it. There's 2 years of just trying to keep it from dying.
We're 4 months in. You're telling us that there's a lot more to this?
Oh yes. Oh yeah.
And
But
it
then
gets better after 2 years?
Oh yeah, definitely. And this is average, but you know what? After a couple of years, a company like a baby, it has its own character.
Right.
It can say things, and it has its own kind of, and you can leave it alone for a day, and it's not going to die. You know?
Yeah.
So you can actually leave it, and after 5 years or so, it's got its own culture and its own meaning and its own narratives and things. And if you try as an entrepreneur to control a company after 12 years, then you're going to find yourself very quickly at the back of the pack. Because
you can't control a teenager.
No, you can't. Actually, after about 12 to 15 years, the company has its own language, its own way of doing things, and it's very difficult then for an entrepreneur to control a company
to bring changes.
after it's about 15 years old, because then the people who are really high up, who've dedicated their lives, all of those people who are dedicating their lives, they're dedicating half of their human experience every day to that particular project. They're there not because it's something other than their life, but because it is exactly their life. Right? It's their life. So when you mess with that company, you want to take it in a direction because you're bored as an entrepreneur. You want to do this left turn, this right turn. You're going to get real kickback from the people who've dedicated their lives to that project, because that's their life you're messing with now. Right? So again, a new company after a certain amount of years, I tend to use that metaphor that it'll behave like a child. In the beginning, you're trying to keep it from killing itself, and then the 2 year to 10 year marks are pretty fun. There's a lot of games and and foosball tables and beanbag chairs and things like that. It's really cool. But then after that, you have to, as an entrepreneur, as a CEO, you have to be able to let go of the direction of the company and allow the people that have dedicated their lives to it to also steer it, because it'll have its own life.
Is that also when you come into companies, because that is potentially the inflection point when companies need to change? Like is that something that you do as part of your consulting as well?
Of course, but that's not necessarily when the company needs to change. That's when the CEO needs to change.
Okay.
So very often people who have started their own companies don't recognize them after 12 to 15 years, and they're confused about that.
Yeah.
I'm not confused about that because I have kids, right? And
an outside perspective.
my daughter is 14 now.
Yeah.
She is nothing like she was when she was 7 or 8.
Yeah.
Right. So if I had that expectation that she was going to be
stay the same,
or respond to me the same, or as easily controlled as she was when she was 7, no. None of that. None of that's going to happen, right? So we don't take that in consideration. That these companies that we build are actually the sum product of the visions, the personal visions of all of the people that are involved in them. Right. If we have 150 employees after 10 years, that's 150 personal lives that are dedicated to this economic project. That's 150 sets of personal goals and 150 personal visions that are involved in this, and all of them struggling to push and pull and move the company in a direction where it's most successful, so that each of these people can reach their personal goals. Each of them can achieve their personal visions, which may not have anything to do with the company at all.
But it's like a living, breathing
thing. Yes.
Yeah.
It is an entity.
I don't know. I've never thought of business like that. Like,
of course.
Yeah.
It definitely is.
Yeah.
A business is the people it's made of.
That's right.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So I've worked with the Al Masood Group in Abu Dhabi for the last year.
Okay.
Al Masood, they're going to be 50 years old next year. They're Abu Dhabi trade license number 1.
Wow.
Yeah, and when they want leadership and when they want leadership for their training for their people, they don't call McKinsey, they don't call KPMG, they call Corrie.
Okay.
So I went in and I've been providing training for 120 of their top leaders over the last year, and they're just such a phenomenal company, right? But now they're on second generation ownership and second generation employees.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we've got like one all of the board. The entire board is made up of the sons of the original 3 owners.
Wow.
Okay, so they're second generation. So they're like, yeah, it's our company, right? Well, and we've got also employees who are the sons of original employees.
Wow,
really?
that's
Yeah,
amazing.
we've
What a
got-
legacy.
I know there's people in that company that have taken over their father's jobs when their fathers have retired.
Wow.
So now my question is,
Whose company
is it? Yeah. Whose company is it? It is now a second generation company, both for the employee and for the owner. It is no less the employee's company than it is the owner's company.
Yeah.
They've dedicated just as much of their human experience to it, if not more.
Yeah.
So yes, the owner has a different role, and they have different benefits, and they have different responsibilities, and they take higher amounts of risk because of those benefits and those responsibilities. But it's not more their company than it is belonging to the people that have dedicated their lives to it
Sure.
in different roles.
Yeah. Wow.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Let's go back to the motivation is bullshit.
Oh yeah, sorry, I got tangented. I got hijacked. I do that.
just find it really interesting. Like if an entrepreneur came to you and said,
Yeah.
"I'm really motivated," and there's another entrepreneur that said, "I'm really disciplined."
Yeah, I'd tell them to go run a marathon with me
to really prove how.
to find out what motivation actually means.
Yeah, because
So-
endurance is different, right?
Oh yes,
Yeah.
yes, and entrepreneurship requires endurance. When you have made when you get up to make the pitch, right? When you deliver that pitch the first time, and you know something went wrong, but you're excited, right?
Yeah.
And then the next time you get it right, and then the third time you get it right, and then the 5th time you get it right, and then the 12th time you get it right, and then the 30th time you get it right, and then the 50th time you get it right, and suddenly you start realizing that this is an endurance game,
Yeah.
right?
It's definitely an endurance.
Oh,
thing.
Yeah.
yeah. But entrepreneurs are really excited, and they think their excitement's going to get them the win. It's not.
Yeah.
Your passion is an ingredient for sure, but your passion enduring is what
Yeah.
actually is going to get you the win. You have to be able to put one foot in front of the other and run an indefinite length of time.
Yeah.
Right? Nobody tells you how long is it going to take, right? A year, 18 months, 2 years, 3 years? Nobody knows.
Yeah.
Right? So you have to start a race having no idea where the finish line is and having the discipline, not the motivation.
Yeah.
The discipline to be able to continuously put one foot in front of the other and always make progress, regardless of how far you've already run
Yeah.
or how far you think that finish line might be.
I think that's the case in most things, right? Like motivation is just the start. Like,
Yeah.
but the discipline is what's going to make you good.
That's exactly
Whether
right.
you want to learn how to play the guitar
Yeah.
or get your master's degree
Yeah, yeah.
or
Yeah.
start a business. I mean, you need the discipline in any, like we could be like this podcast, for example.
Yeah.
We could have just been super excited about it, done 2-3 episodes and then fizzled out. I see that happening to a lot of
Yeah, sure.
other podcasts who like they start up, they do 3-4 episodes, 6 episodes. But I mean, this thing takes work.
That's right.
Yeah.
You need to organize equipment, people, and we've been
32
kind of disciplined with it.
Yeah, we've been quite disciplined with it, all things considered, with business, work, and
Personal life.
baby.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
with-
and now we're starting, like we've crossed 11,000-12,000 plus listens and stuff, and every now and then we get messages on LinkedIn and on our Instagram,
Yeah.
and that's really motivating. It
Yeah.
gives us that little bit of a kick
Yeah,
to
of
continue
course.
to be disciplined.
Well, it's
know?
not that there's no value in motivation. There is. But that feeling, that like, oh yeah, the get off the couch feeling lasts about 40 seconds. That's how
Okay.
long it lasts in your head. If you don't do what you're feeling motivated to do within 40 seconds, chances are you're not going to do it. And not only will you not do it, but your brain will give you a shot of dopamine as a reward for not doing it. Because that means you're going to not expend calories. You're going to stay in a rested position. You're not going to expose yourself to the risk of the wild world out there. And
Yeah.
so your brain is going to protect you by giving you a reward for being lazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is why procrastination is just so
it's
much
addictive.
fun.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's absolutely addictive. It is the
Yeah.
most addictive thing on the planet. Dopamine is the most addictive thing on the planet. When it's synthesized and sold on the street, they call it heroin.
Yeah.
So now you get an idea of how incredible
Get some
this
context,
chemi-
yeah.
So it's produced in our brains every day. We all produce it. We all consume it every day, and we consume it for a number of different things. Like when you get a great combination of sugar, fat, and salt all at the same time, like in a Big Mac, your brain rewards you with dopamine because that is a great source of calories.
Yeah.
And calories are something that used to be in demand, not in supply.
Yeah.
Right? Up to about 100 years ago, your ability to feed yourself was, is sketchy.
Yeah.
You had to work for it. You had to work really hard.
Yeah.
And now we have to work really hard to not eat.
Yes,
right?
for sure.
But
for sure.
we have 300,000 years of evolution leading us into this place where now our brains are rewarding us for doing things that are unhealthy. But it's not from a bad place. It's from a good place. They were actually protecting us before, right? So these things that used to be psychological insulators are now harmful for us. And the good news is we can rise above it. And that's why I say that motivation is bullshit and discipline is the only thing that matters. Because discipline is the ability to choose what you do in spite of how you feel.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Regardless of how you feel.
It's all about mindset.
Exactly. If you
It's
can be
overcoming.
If you can just be aware of the decision that you have in front of you, that's step number one. And most people aren't. They're not aware. They just do whatever they feel. And then whatever they feel is monitored mostly by the reward centers of the brain, right? So whatever you're going to get oxytocin, serotonin, and dopamine for. All humans experience happiness in exactly the same way, right? Regardless of where you are on the planet. Exactly the same. Everyone. Dopamine, serotonin, and oxytocin. That's it. That is the chemical formula for happiness. We all have different triggers, but we all experience exactly the same chemical form of happiness.
Yeah.
But don't you get a kick out of crossing things off your to-do list as well?
Yes. Yeah. So dopamine is an achievement drug. Okay. So when you
don't do what you set out to achieve, you get a dopamine hit.
Correct.
And when you do it, you get a dopamine
That's
hit.
correct. Yes. So I know it's wonderful. The brain is a wonderful, wonderful thing. So we get rewarded by the brain for accomplishing something because so we have this need to do. We have an innate need to accomplish something, right? Which is why when you go on vacation, you have to go do touristy things or go swim in the ocean. You can't actually just sit there.
Yeah.
Very difficult. Well, you have to, which is why meditation retreats, like when you go on a meditation retreat, that's like work.
Yeah.
Because you have to fight against your brain's desire
to do
something. You're fighting that human instinct to accomplish something. When you do accomplish something, you get a dopamine hit for it. When you avoid something, you also get a dopamine hit for it because then your brain thinks, oh, he's avoided a risk or she's avoided a risk. So let's reward her for avoiding the risk of stepping out into the world where she might be hunted and killed,
Okay.
So then you get a dopamine hit for avoiding the work instead of a dopamine hit for achieving the work.
Okay. So your advice to people is chase the dopamine hit for actually doing the work.
Yes. And you can build these neural pathways in your brain. You can hack yourself. We are wonderful machines. Wonderful.
Yeah.
And so you can actually choose a source of dopamine that's healthy for you.
Okay.
So if you have those, say you're sitting on the couch.
But it's that choice that's
right. But that is a new thing. The prefrontal cortex that gives us that ability to choose, the willpower to choose over and above what we feel, that's a fairly new part of the brain from an evolutionary standpoint.
Okay.
It developed more recently.
Right.
And every generation that goes by, it gets stronger and stronger and stronger. So our ability to choose what we do in spite of how we feel is becoming stronger, which is great. So as soon as you're aware of the decision that's in front of you, you can make a choice. You can override the systems of reward, and you can choose where you get your reward from. And your brain will give you a dopamine hit for doing it. Not only will it give you a dopamine hit for accomplishing what you've accomplished, but also for making a choice that was unnatural. So when you made that choice, you'll feel proud of yourself, right? That pride is a dopamine hit.
Sweet.
Okay.
Yeah, right?
Wow.
So you can become addicted to achieving, which is,
Right.
I think that it was in the 5 a.m. club or something like that. I remember stealing fire at 5 a.m. I think you can actually become addicted to achieving things, even just little things.
It's interesting that you have to consciously make that choice.
Yeah.
And that the prefrontal cortex
Yes.
is a newly developed part of your brain. But there is this thing about it takes 21 days to form a habit. So
Yes,
how does
yeah.
that come into play?
Again, our brains are malleable, right? So we can reprogram ourselves. For example, when you started watching this podcast, you didn't have a Dr. Corrie Block neuron in your head. But over the course of the last half an hour or so, that was formed in your head. And now you're building a pattern where you will recognize me in relation to other people that you've met, or other Canadians, or other people that have lived in Yemen, or other consultants, or other entrepreneurs, and you'll start building a web of meaning around that term, Corrie Block.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay, so literally, I'm in your head right now. And I
Freaky.
wasn't when we started.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're creating these neural pathways, and then 3 days from now, 5 days from now, maybe you'll remember my name. If somebody says Corrie Block, suddenly you'll see my face,
And you'll form those
remember one of
patterns.
the things that I said, and you'll form those patterns. So the things will start firing in your head. Electricity will start going off. So we can actually create neural pathways in our heads. We do it all the time anyway.
Yeah.
So if we do it intentionally, that gives us that power, right, to change our behavior. So 21 days is kind of a rule of thumb for creating a new habit.
Yeah.
And what it is basically is just shifting your brain from choosing one source of dopamine to another source of dopamine. So rather than choosing the lazy source or the Big Mac source, let's choose the gym source. Because you do get a hit of dopamine from going to the gym. It's really cool.
Yeah.
Right? And it's exactly the same chemical, just as addictive, just as wonderful as you get from getting from a Big Mac. Now, the challenge is you have to overcome the convenience of the Big Mac as a source of dopamine, because it's very easy to get dopamine from a Big Mac because it doesn't take any energy.
Yeah.
You don't have to actually lift anything. You don't have to get off the couch. You can just Talibat that Big Mac right over to you, right?
Exactly.
And so just sitting there, not expending any energy and not risking exposure to the world, you can get a great source of sugar, fat, and salt all at the same time delivered to you in 20 minutes.
I really want that Big
I know,
Mac
it's like
now.
a miracle.
Yeah, man.
So
Really,
you can
I'm
imagine
like, should we order a Big Mac tonight?
if you want to train your brain to seek a different source of that same dopamine,
Yeah.
right, and especially a source that requires energy, requires risk, exposes you to the world, and expends your hard stored calories, you have to make a conscious choice to do that. The good news is, if you consistently make that conscious choice over a period of about 21 days, your brain will learn, and it will just it will start to achieve dopamine from a new source, and it will just slowly stay over there so that you'll become naturally choosing that dopamine source.
More inclined to choose that.
So you know that people, you've heard of people getting addicted to the gym.
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Right. Okay. So
and
I
like
used
runners
to hate those
high
people.
and stuff.
Yeah.
Oh my god, I really hate runners actually.
Really?
Yeah, because the way people talk about running, it's like, it's just running. Like, calm down. You know, like, and I'm sorry, I know you said you do CrossFit,
No, I
but
do.
runners and CrossFit people are like very cultish, you know?
It's true. Yes. Yeah. CrossFit people, we're not runners and we're not lifters. We can lift more than runners and we can run farther than lifters. So that's about. We're just somewhere in between,
Yeah,
but we are a bit
these are
cultish.
the reasons why I really enjoy talking to people who do CrossFit.
Yeah, but CrossFit is. I like it. I'm not a culty CrossFit guy.
Okay.
I go every day, but because I enjoy not only the dopamine that comes from actually achieving the exercise, but also the oxytocin. Because we're very good at building community. It is a bit cultish, right?
It is very
It
like
really is.
community.
You just
like.
go every day and
Yeah, I go.
Yeah.
I go every day. But
Yeah.
it's not just the achievement of exercising, but exercising around people that are cheering for you, and that you're cheering for them, and you kind of know them, and you're regulars and stuff.
Yeah.
So you get oxytocin from it too, and you get serotonin as well when people honor you for something that you've achieved that you've never achieved before. If you get a good max, or you get a good time on something, and you're proud of yourself, and other people are proud of you, you get serotonin for that. So it's a good source of dopamine, serotonin, and oxytocin at the same time. And that, if you'll remember, is the chemical formula for happiness. Okay?
Yeah.
Interesting.
But that's why people get addicted to it, is because it is a regular, predictable source of all three chemicals that compose human happiness.
Wow.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, so this is like an advertisement for CrossFit.
And CrossFit and
Join
OCR.
CrossFit,
Yeah,
you will be
yeah.
happy.
Well, what
The
makes
secret to human happiness.
what makes
It's
collective
CrossFit.
exercise, I don't mean not individual, like if you just go to the gym and work out all by yourself, you'll get the dopamine hit from that, but you'll get the endorphins that come, like the painkillers. Endorphins are painkillers. It's our body's way of saying, hey, don't feel this now.
Tomorrow
You'll
suffer.
feel it tomorrow. 2 days from now, that's when you're really gonna feel it, right?
Yeah.
When you stand up out of bed and you can't walk, that's when the endorphins have worn off, right?
Yeah.
Like, so anyway, but you'll get the dopamine hit, but you won't get the same oxytocin and serotonin you would from doing a collective exercise,
Yeah.
Yeah.
like running or Zumba or yoga or something like that.
Yeah.
If you're with people that you like, then you'll get serotonin and oxytocin at the same time, and that's a much more powerful source of happiness than a Big Mac.
Yeah.
Because a Big Mac doesn't connect you with anyone.
Yeah.
Unless you're sitting across the table lovingly eating a Big Mac with someone.
Yeah,
Which can also
unless
happen.
you
I'm sorry.
split it in half and you share, you gaze
I
at
would
each other.
never share a Big Mac. Never.
Okay.
That is my Big Mac.
Okay.
I am super territorial about my fries, too.
Not with the new fiance as well.
No,
Okay.
definitely not. She can have her own Big Mac.
You worked hard for that Big Mac.
That's right. That is mine. If I'm gonna put that many calories into my body and be proud of it, I'm gonna.
You might as well go all the way.
Yeah, that's right.
Have the whole thing.
That's
yeah,
exactly it. I work out not because I don't need to be. I'm not an athlete. I'm a consultant, so I know who I am. I know that. It's fine. I work out because I want the right to eat and drink what I like.
Yeah.
And that right is slowly slipping away from me as time creeps in. Right?
Yeah.
I'm
The
old
merits
now,
of
so-
getting older. Yeah,
Definitely hitting me hard.
yeah.
Yeah, your metabolism drops sharply when you're 30, drops sharply again when you're 40, and I've heard that it comes again when you're 50, but I'm a few years away from that yet.
Oh, really?
Okay. Wow. Well, you
Yeah.
tell us then.
Yeah.
We're miles away. Well, not as far away as I would like, but yeah. Anyway, I think this has been a very different episode for us because
Good. Different good or different bad?
different good.
All right.
Different good.
You know, it's one of those words. Like I had a friend in Estonia tell me one time. She said, what do you think about this? And I said, it's interesting. She said, interesting is what English speakers say when they don't like something and they're trying to be polite. I think
So you
different.
think different is
Yeah,
like
I
that?
think different is probably one of those. It's an equivocation.
No, so if I'm saying different, I'm always meaning that it's good.
All right.
Know?
Well, you have to say that. We're on air. What are you
Yeah,
gonna say? What are you
exactly,
gonna say?
exactly. So different good for sure.
All right.
So generally our audience is entrepreneurs,
Mm-hmm.
some VCs and stuff that are looking at tips on how to start their business. And you've done this with 7 businesses
Yes.
and helping businesses. But the interesting thing is that we've talked a lot about the mindset of the entrepreneur through the motivation is bullshit thing. So I think that's a nice new way of looking at things, and I think entrepreneurs need a lot of grit, right, to wake up every single day
absolutely.
and to do it.
Yeah.
So I think train your mind to endure.
Hack your mind.
Hack your
Hack
mind.
your brain, yes,
Yeah.
and set your expectations on a long game.
Yeah.
Okay.
Expect to be giving that pitch 100 times.
Mm-hmm.
Then it
Yeah.
won't surprise you when you actually do.
Yeah.
Yep.
Great.
All right, guys. On that note, thank you for being on the podcast.
My pleasure.
Dr. Corrie.
Doctor. No, it's what is it? There's one more
It's
thing
Professor
before that.
Dr. Corrie.
Professor Doctor.
Yeah.
So yeah. So
Yeah.
thank you for being on the podcast.
My pleasure.
Guys, this podcast is available on all the podcast platforms. We're on Anchor as well, so you can leave us a voice note if you want, and we'll try to include it in a future episode. Leave us a review. It really helps us out, and it helps iTunes know that this podcast is people are listening to it, so it'll recommend it to more people. And if you're watching this on YouTube, leave us a like, hit that subscribe button, leave us a comment, and I think that's
Keep
all
on
the
hustling.
plugging. All right.
Just before that, we leave links to Dr. Corrie's LinkedIn, Paragon Consulting,
And Xische Co.
and Xische Co. And Dr. Corrie also has his own podcast called Business is Personal. So we
Yes.
leave a link to that as also. So check it out
Yep.
and keep on hustling.